you like a ton of bricks. But they got it pretty right. I actually really enjoyed the park area that they had relegated to Silent Hill. The only part that I didn't like was the fact that they had Pyramid Head walking around, and it was the video game Pyramid Head, it wasn't the movie Pyramid Head, which is different, and the original one is better in my opinion. But they had the video game Pyramid Head walking around, and he had stilts on to make him seem more imposing, and I'm like, that just makes it look silly. That Pyramid Head went off and joined the circus or something. Pyramid Head, what are you doing to the bearded lady? But I went through the maze, and they had like all the classic Silent Hill stuff. They had the nurses, they had Robbie the Rabbit, and of course they had Pyramid Head. And he is basically trying to scare you every like 5 minutes or so. He'll jump out and be like, and obviously people are jumping. But I was in the unfortunate position where I was right at the back of the line, so I was always the guy who was behind the guy who was being scared by Pyramid Head. So I would see the reaction, and I'd see Pyramid Head coming a mile away, and it just wouldn't work on me. I wasn't scared, and I wasn't getting the authentic Silent Hill experience, because obviously you don't get that experience if you're not terrified beyond belief and walk out with hands drenched by urine or whatever. But I walked through the maze, and I was like, that was very disappointing. Pyramid Head didn't do jack to me. And then you walk out of the building where they have it, and there's a big long stretch of corridor getting you back to the main park. And they decided to dress it up, because obviously just walking down this empty corridor is kind of boring. They dressed it up like an extra part of Silent Hill, and they had a few nurses walking around, they had a few other creatures and stuff, just to give you one final scare. And Pyramid Head was there, and I was like, maybe he's going to do something really scary, and it's going to be my chance to actually be terrified of Pyramid Head, for real. And instead of doing like the or coming at you all intimidating, this is what Pyramid Head did to me. Just do it like this. And I was like, what the hell, Pyramid Head? Where did this come from? I gave him a round of applause. I was very impressed. I think he must have just been very bored. Yeah, that was a great time. But yeah, that's my story about my shirt. And if anybody has any questions related to things other than my t-shirt, then feel free to ask. Anybody have any questions? What about my Zelda hat? My wife got me this Zelda hat, and somebody actually offered to pay me $100 for the hat the other day. And I know my wife would be extremely angry if I sold it, but if I showed her the $100, I think the anger would be slightly reduced. But I wouldn't trade it for it. I'd trade it for the world, because I love Zelda and I love my wife. So you guys are all like, oh, he loves Zelda. Video games. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Zelda. My favorite Zelda game is Majora's Mask, which is kind of See, I always get a different reaction from that, because usually people are like, Majora's Mask is okay, Ocarina of Time, or Wind Waker, and I'm a huge fan of those games. Everyone says Ocarina, and it's true, but Majora's Mask, the atmosphere is so different from every other Zelda game. The moon is in the sky, always coming closer to you, and every time you achieve something, you have to reverse time and go back to the beginning and realize everything I did has been erased, and it's almost like this whole adventure is pointless. So you're kind of playing the tragic hero, which doesn't really exist in any other game in the series. Some people say that's annoying because you're erasing what you did, but I like that about it. But it's kind of like whenever I say my favorite Final Fantasy game, that's always a very polarizing thing. I always say, because my favorite Final Fantasy game is 9. Does anybody else like 9? Because in my opinion, 9 is the best game. Because every other Final Fantasy game is great when treated as a story, but 9 is really, really entertaining, because the main character actually likes women, and and he's fun and he's flirtatious, and he actually, it feels like you're playing a video game, and it's entertaining, and the characters are fun and funny, and I don't really get that from like 13 or 10 was entertaining a little bit, and 7 is kind of long-winded, but it's good. But 9 has always been far and away the funnest to play for me. I've always loved that one. So yeah, if you guys have any video game questions, feel free to ask me about that. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions whatsoever. Anybody have any questions? What's my favorite video game? Who has that? Right here. My favorite video game is Shenmue for the Dreamcast. My favorite console is the Dreamcast. I have to say. I actually, my wife got me a Dreamcast for my birthday last year because she realized how much I loved it, and I was like, yeah, this is the best thing ever, and I've touched it maybe twice since she got it for me. But yeah, I do love the Dreamcast, and Shenmue and 1 and 2, and I wish they would make a third one. I really do. I love the Mega 64 video where the creator of Shenmue was explaining what would have happened in the third game if it ever came out. That was pretty amazing. The rest of the story of Shenmue. You had your hand up right there.
Yes, it's not a video game.
That's all right.
How did you discover that you could do all those voices?
How did I discover that I could do the voices? I was the class clown at school in the sense that everybody treated me like I was a clown, and everybody hates clowns. So, it's true. So my defense mechanism was making people laugh. Because it was either make them laugh and make them think you're harmless and ignore you, or get annoyed. Yeah, somebody just said it there. Get the word beaten out of you. So I started doing voices from TV shows. I actually wrote an entire history essay in the style of Beavis and Butthead. Because I was a huge fan of that show, and Mike Judge is one of my biggest influences. The guy, he does all the voices on on Beavis and Butthead, and he wrote the show, and obviously he was a huge creative influence behind that. And I came into class, and they were like, Martin Billany, read your history essay to the front of the class to everybody, and I was like, okay. Okay. So like in 1066, the Battle of Hastings, yeah. You're a dumbass. And people laughed, and people were like, yeah, and they gave me a standing ovation. So the next 5 history essays, I did the same thing. To which point the history teacher was sick and fed up of it. But the class was laughing, so I was like, hey, doing voices, no matter what I'm writing, even if it's, because it was real history I was writing about, I just did it in a funny way. I just figured that if you just add that kind of thing to it, and add characters and voices and just change the context of it, it makes people entertained. So I guess that's how I discovered I can do the voices. And then while I was watching Yu-Gi-Oh!, the one voice that I like to imitate the most, and it's probably the one voice that a lot of you guys like to imitate the most, is Tristan. Because from episodes 1 to 7, I think of the original dub, they had Sam Riegel playing him. And they gave him sort of a surfer dude kind of personality. They were going for a surfer dude, but they got something very different, in my opinion. He sounds kind of like, I don't know, what's a surfboard, you know? But I could do that voice, and I thought, hey, if I could do Tristan's voice, maybe I can do all the others. And I tried, and apparently I can do kind of an approximation of some of them. And Tristan was the main impetus for that, though. It all snowballed from him, I guess. He's the inspiration. Anybody from this side? Yes, right here.
Well, if I remember correctly, you said first your favorite voice to do was Tristan because he was the comic relief, and now your favorite voice to do is I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And now your favorite voice to do is Merrick. Is that still true, or is there another voice now?
Originally, my favorite voice to do was Tristan, because the idiot character is the most fun to play in any situation. And Tristan can literally say anything, and it can, like, blow the house down. It can make people die of laughter. I actually went to a convention one time, and somebody had the complete works of Shakespeare, and they brought it up, and they had me reading Shakespeare poetry as Tristan.
Oh gosh.
And people were dying. You know, it was hysterical. And I actually, and again, at the last convention I mentioned this at my panel yesterday, somebody brought a copy of 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh my god.
And it was Tristan and Marek for some reason, because those are the two voices everybody wanted to hear the most, so it was Tristan having sex with Marek. I'm sure somebody beat me to it at some point. But
I'm so sad.
That was a thing. But I think, yeah, it went on to Marek because Marek is basically an extension of, like, my inner child, in a way. He's the voice in the back of my head that I try to ignore, which is appropriate for the character. Like, when I'm writing a script, usually Marek will want to, like, take over and write the dialogue for me, essentially. There was one line from, I think it was the charity video I made where Marek was Neko Marek. Yeah, meow. Where there's a line Bakura has where he says, "Let's all stop acting like children." And in the back of my head I could hear Marek going, "Never!" So I had to have him say that. But yeah, he's kind of an extension of that part of me. But I think the voice I like the most to do, and I wish I was more consistent at doing it. I wish I could do it for a long period of time. And it's a lot of people's favorite voice is Naruto from the Naruto spoof. I really enjoy doing that. The weed smoking. He doesn't necessarily smoke weed. I think one time he might have. Maybe I did it, and that's why I created the character. But I'm very fond of that character just because it's my parodying the way that some female voice actors treat little boy characters. Because a lot of the time and I'm not criticizing them for it, but they make them sound like, instead of a little boy, they sound like they've been smoking, which is why he smokes. And I don't really know many little boys that sound like that. I don't know about this! Is this a little boy? But yeah, that Naruto is probably my favorite, because I come up with some really random stuff when I'm doing that voice. In fact, if you go in the artist alley where I've got a booth set up, right at the...
See, I didn't know you had a booth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in there. If you come to the booth after the panel, you can buy stuff.
I've been walking around that artist alley. I probably passed you like 20
Possibly.
times.
I'm very forgettable. Yeah, it's right at the front, in the top right corner.
You have like a flashing sign, Little Kuriboh.
I have a banner that says Yu-Gi-Oh! The Bridge Series. That's all I have, unfortunately. But if you go to the back of the room, they're actually playing a trailer for the game that I'm involved with, Crisis Heart Brawlers, which is the game, the Setsucon game. And there's actually a trailer I put together where Naruto is narrating it. And at the end, there's like 90 seconds of bloopers where I'm basically being like, Crisis Heart Brawlers! That's the name of the game! And that's a lot of fun. Apparently they play it constantly and they say it's still funny, so I think that voice just never gets old. But yeah, those are my favorite voices to do. Somebody this side. Yes, right there.
So is your love of Beavis and Butthead what inspired Rex and Weevil?
My love of Beavis and Butthead is exactly what inspired Rex and Weevil. I was struggling for like half a day to think of what to do with those characters, because the comic relief villains essentially, and I looked at them and like the prepubescent kids, and I can't really do the voice. I actually think I could do a semi-good Weevil voice. Yuki, I thought I smelled you. That's the Weevil voice. But I just looked at them and thought, wait a minute, they hang out, they laugh a lot, and they kind of like to play pranks on people, and like in the later seasons, and they're kind of pathetic and never really get their way, and they're always trying to be the real heroes of the show. I guess they could be Beavis and Butthead. and basically it was me being like, now all my old jokes are new again. So yeah, it was definitely the inspiration for that. But I mean, I like ripping other people off. That's part of my humor, I think. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good choice. It worked somehow. Anybody else? Yes, right there.
Is there any character parody in particular that you're really proud of?
Is there any character parody in particular? I'm proud of a lot of them, but a few specific ones. I like a lot of them in the Naruto spoof. Again, I like David Bowie. David Bowie sama sensei senpai san-sama. Good. I like Sasuke in that series as well, because Sasuke is just me putting absolutely no effort into the role whatsoever. Naruto, I shall defeat you somehow. It's really like that. We ad-libbed a scene, myself and Takahata 101, the guy who plays Itachi in the Naruto spoof. I've told this story at a few different conventions, but we were at a Canadian convention, and he looks at me and he says, "Hey Sasuke, I never told you what happened to your parents." And I go, "You told me enough." And then I went, "I know exactly what happened to them there in the basement. No, they're upstairs." And he goes, "No, Sasuke, they're downstairs. But we don't have a basement now." I think I used that one. Did I use that one already? No? I don't think so. Won't let. Spoiler. That's gonna happen. But yeah, Sasuke is a lot of fun. Other characters from Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, Marek, obviously, is a very obvious one. He's just... Because in the show, he's kind of like a combination of Skeletor and the Monarch. So the voice is kind of an obvious derivative of that, in a way. Other characters. I mean, I think the funniest ones are the ones that are just exaggerations of what's already there. Because Kaiba and Bakura are some of my favorite characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. And the only reason they're that funny is because they are Kaiba and Bakura. They're just really, really Kaiba and Bakura. I think it's just taking that character and making them self-aware and making Kaiba know that he's a giant egomaniac who's rich. Because he makes a big deal of it in the show, but he doesn't rub it in people's faces the way he does in my version of the series. But yeah, those are probably some of the best ones, I think. And yes, Penelope. What was the story behind Tristan's voice dying? As I explained earlier, he was originally voiced by Sam Riegel, who was a very talented voice actor. He plays Teddy in the new Persona 4 anime. They got him to play him as a surfer dude, and that was apparently the original, character decision that they made. And then they realized it wasn't working. Who knew? And so they brought Greg Abbey in to do a different take on the character where he was more serious. And there's an episode where they just change the voice and nobody calls attention to it. And so I said, they should call attention to it. What if his voice died? And it's very tragic, and then in the next episode he just comes back to life and it's not a big deal. But yeah, that was a lot of people think that the voice actor for Tristan in my series actually died or something, and I paid tribute to them, and I was like, no, I'm not that serious. But, yeah, it's a very obtuse, obscure reference to the fact that they changed the voice actor. And of course they changed a few of the voice actors in Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. They changed Mai Valentine and Mokuba, because those voice actresses actually moved to the West Coast to work, so they couldn't use them anymore. So maybe I'll make a few jokes about that, I'm not sure. I'm thinking of actually getting a woman to voice Mai when her voice changes, and have Joe be like, yeah, you sound weird now, Mai. You sound like a man or something. What's wrong with you? So that's potentially one of the jokes coming up. You had a question. Is it easy for me to sing in my voices? Some of the voices, it's harder, definitely. Naruto is particularly hard. Some of them, like the David Bowie Training Ninja song, I had to do like 500 different takes for Naruto's parts. I had to cut his parts into individual lines and segments. Like, but David Bowie sensei, that is really mean. We're a bitchin' ninja team. I can't believe I actually almost got that. But it's definitely difficult to sing in general for me, but some of them are more fun than others, because like Marek, I don't think he sounds good when he sings, but as long as it's
great when he sings.
It's great when he sounds good. Do I want to hear what?
I have it.
You have what? I mean, I probably have it as well. What is it?
I have a bunch of songs, I'm sorry.
That's all right. What is it?
I have Marek versus Bakura.
Marek versus Bakura. Round 1, fight! Yes, I remember this song. Why don't I just hire you? You said you have leather pants.
Yes.
Can I have your leather pants?
It's leather pants! I'm nothing better to
Fantastic. Yes.
you just look at that voice!
Look at that voice. It is very sexy to look at. Hello. Do-do-do. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Thank you. What were we talking about? Is it easy to sing in the... People say Marek... I guess you guys think Marek's voice sounds good when he sings. It's fun. I don't think it sounds good.
It sounds great.
I really want to do a bunch of different song parodies. I want to do a parody of Total Eclipse of the Heart. Ready for it? Called Believe in the Heart of the Cards. And I want to do a parody of American Pie called Millennium Eye. Because I think Pegasus would sound great singing that song. I think that'd be awesome. Where he's just singing the story of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? I really want to do a Yu-Gi-Oh! Musical, like an entire musical.
How about
The way
it?
I wanted to do it was, I wanted to record the songs in character voices and